Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another Second Look Bible study, where a second look always takes you just a bit deeper into God's Word. My name is Jim Schaefer. I'm a retired pastor and Bible teacher, and it's my joy to share with you every Tuesday afternoon live on Facebook, or maybe you're catching this on my YouTube channel. Either way, I'm glad that you're here. Please leave a comment and let me know that you have listened, and I would appreciate any suggestions or any help as we continue this ministry. Now, today we are going to be continuing our series on unnamed women of the Old Testament. This will be our 12th lesson in this series. I've divided it into two volumes, the first 6 in volume 1 and the second 6 here in volume 2. Today we're going to be looking at the unnamed woman of Bahurim. And that story is found in 2 Samuel chapter 17. And I'd like to begin today by reading the text for you. Let's take a quick peek here. It tells us in the Bible, in 2 Samuel 17, starting with verse 18, "But a young man saw them." Now, these two that have been seen by this young man are spies. And the young man told Absalom. So the two of them, again, the spies, left quickly and went to the house of a man in Bahurim. He had a well in his courtyard, and they climbed down into it. His wife, here's our unnamed woman, took a covering and spread it out over the opening of the well and scattered grain over it, and no one knew anything about it. So that's the text for our story today. This is a fascinating story that kind of reads like a TV movie almost. There's a great deal of action and spies and narrow escapes. So I hope you enjoy today's story. Now, as our story of the unnamed woman of Bahurim begins, Absalom, that's David's son if you'll remember, is attempting to overthrow King David and take the kingdom for himself. Now, David's kingdom at this point in time hangs by a thread. His loyal priest, Zadok and Abiathar, stayed in the city as informants, but they couldn't send messages directly to David. So their sons, Jonathan and Ahimaaz, waited outside the city at En Rogel, hiding near the spring. Now, En Rogel literally means the place by the spring. So these are our two spies. They are getting information from two priests, and the priests are their fathers. Now, this location was perfect. It was close enough to receive messages quickly from Jerusalem, and yet it was far enough away to avoid suspicion. It was a natural gathering place where people came and went. To avoid detection, the priest used a young servant girl to carry intelligence from Jerusalem to the spring. Now, we could take a look at this unnamed servant girl because she's a hero in this story as well, and would be another placed story of an unnamed woman in the Bible. But we're just going to mention her here and then continue on. She would walk to En Rogel as if doing ordinary chores, and then quietly pass the message to the two young men. Now, to avoid detection, the priest used this young servant girl to carry intelligence from Jerusalem to the spring at En Rogel. She would walk there, as I said, doing ordinary chores, and then quietly pass the messages to the two young men. Unfortunately, a boy sees them and reports it. Suddenly, the messengers are being hunted. Now, the two men, that's Jonathan and Ahimaaz, flee for their lives and end up in Bahurim. It's into this tense moment that an unnamed woman steps into the scene. Now, Bahurim was located on an old road between Jerusalem and Jericho. Let's take a look at the map that talks about these individuals. You will notice on the map that we have Jerusalem all the way over to the far left. And right between Jerusalem and Bahurim is the Mount of Olives, but further south you're going to find En Rogel, which is the fountain. All right, and we are going to see that the story is going to take place between Jerusalem and Bahurim. Now, the young men stumble into her courtyard, breathless, covered with dust, eyes wide with fear. She recognizes them instantly. She knows they're David's messengers, that they're loyal to the true king. Behind them, the distant thunder of hooves grow louder. "Hide us," they whisper. And without hesitation, she leads them to the well in her courtyard. They climb down into the darkness, crouching behind the cool stone. She lowers a covering over the opening and scatters grain across it, transforming the well into what looked like a place for drying harvested wheat. Moments later, soldiers burst into her courtyard. "Where are Amahaz and Jonathan?" Her heart pounds, but her face remains calm. "They pass over the brook," she says, pointing away from the well. "If you hurry, you may catch them." The soldiers rush off, dust rising behind them. Only when the sound fades does she lift the covering. The messengers climb out, whispering their gratitude. They run towards David with a warning that will save his life. She watches them disappear into the hills, her hand trembling, not from fear, but from the weight of what she has just done. In a single moment of courage, she has preserved the king's future. She has protected the line through which God's promises will unfold. She's protected the line that Jesus Christ will be born from. So, let's take a quick look at some of the applications of the story. By the way, here's a great picture of what that well may have looked like. Yes, it may have been an above-ground well, but it's a little harder to picture them jumping into a well and it being covered with straw and wheat being placed over it, where a well like the one in the picture certainly could have been what the two slaves escape into. So let's look at a couple of life applications. First off, courage often looks like quick, quiet action. I mean, in our story, she doesn't have time to make a plan or to put together a committee. She acts decisively when the moment demands it. The second application is that God uses ordinary places sometimes for extraordinary purposes. A simple well becomes a refuge. God can turn everyday spaces of our lives into places of protection and ministry. The third application that I want you to see is you don't need a title to make a kingdom impact. She wasn't a prophet, she wasn't a warrior, she wasn't even a leader, just a woman in a village. And yet her courage shaped the future of Israel. Fourthly, she's protecting others, and that is a sacred calling. Her actions remind us that safeguarding the vulnerable, the faithful, and the truth is a part of God's heart. Fifthly, faithfulness is often hidden from public view. No crowds applauded her, no songs were written about her, but heaven saw her courage, and because of her actions, the line of King David was preserved. Well, let's bring this all to an end today. The woman of Bahurim stands as a quiet hero in the story of King David. Her bravery, her quick thinking, her willingness to risk her life for God's purposes reveal the power of hidden faithfulness. Though unnamed, she becomes a guardian of the king and a participant in God's unfolding plan. Her story invites us to consider how our own small acts of courage may be shaping the future in ways that we can't even see. The Woman of Bahurim. I hope you enjoyed today's story. This will bring an end to our series on unnamed women of the Old Testament. I am in the process of preparing some unnamed women in the New Testament, and that will be the start of our next series. I want to thank you so much for being here. Just a quick reminder, check out the YouTube channel. It's youtube.com/@Jim Schaeffer. That's JIMSHAFFER 8933. Again, once you get there, you'll check the playlist and you will see all of the various series that I have recorded there. There's somewhere around 200 Bible studies now. I hope that you find them meaningful to your life. Take a moment to leave a comment, either on Facebook or on YouTube, and I thank you again for watching. I hope you have a wonderful weekend, and I want you to know that Marcia and I are praying for each of you.